I'll get on with the senior estimator or the owner and be blunt and say, hey, I looked, man, we only did a few million with you or $500,000. I know you guys are subbing out closer to like probably 6 or 8 million. We only got a fraction of that. How can we get the whole pie?
Welcome to the Top Contractor Podcast, the show that highlights the remarkable individuals who are shaping the construction industry and pushing its boundaries with engaging interviews, expert discussions, and real world stories of success. I'm your host, Bill Ryman, your broker builder, here with my co host,
Nate Swink. What's up, Billy B?
What
Billy
is
B.
up, man?
William Ryman. He told me his middle
Yes,
name, but I forgot. I
thank
messed
God
up,
he
guys.
forgot. And I'm not going to tell him. I'm going to
I
wait till
think
the
it was
next piece.
Gerard.
That's what I said it was, but it wasn't. So
Ah,
now you're
man.
just going to have to wait until I release that again. But anyway, welcome everybody. Thank you guys for tuning in. Another great show in store for you. Please take the time, like, share, comment, subscribe. Goes a long way for Nate and I. We appreciate each and every one of you guys tuning in. Nate, we got to get better at going through the comments, combing through them. We haven't done that in a while. I just remembered that, but we will start doing that on the next episode because we got people commenting, and we'll start kind of going over some of the topics you guys want us to as well. But today, we're getting into some current things Nate and I are going through. I know we've been kind of on these monthly topic kicks. We're going to get back into it coming up on the next episode. But to kind of kick off, is it going to be March by the time this launches? I think it's going to be March. Yeah.
March 1st,
So
it'll launch March
the
1st.
kickoff March 1st is when this thing launches. Nate and I are going to talk about some of the things we are doing to grow and scale our companies, some of the strategies we are utilizing that maybe can benefit some of you as the listener. Obviously, you know, Nate and I are in completely different companies. I'm a custom home builder. Nate is in the welding business. So we have each different types of companies. I subcontract out a lot. Nate has a lot of in-house employees. So looking forward to this topic, giving you guys some different takes on it. But Nate, before we get started, what's this show all about?
Yes, sir. So the TCS podcast, we have 3 different styles of episodes. Number 1 is a deep dive into a specific topic. That is what we're doing today. And 2 is an expert interview. And 3 is construction news, which there hasn't been much new things in construction. So we haven't done that in a while.
We'll key in on one of those coming up. I mean, we can go through some of those. We've just been.
Go ahead, Billy.
No, you go ahead.
No, you first.
No, we'll get in on construction news. We will get back to an interview this month too. Try and get at least an interview a month in, I think is pretty good. So we'll have another guest coming up for you guys too. If you didn't check out the last interview with Ryan Austin, you are
Damn.
yeah. I'm going to listen to that one a few times, but I highly suggest going back and playing that last episode that was just launched with Ryan. So many good things in that episode that you guys, great takeaways. So shout out to Ryan for coming on the show with Nate and I, and we're gonna have to top that interview. That's a hard one to top, but we'll have another great guest coming up here. But Nate, let's get into this a little bit, man. You and I kind of came up with this topic because we want to talk about more of what's going on with us personally, how we can relate to you, the audience, and help you guys out with some of the stuff that we're going through and we're trying to do with our own companies too. We just feel like that's a better strategy to go today for this show before we get back into certain topics and kind of have those for the rest of the month. So Nate, scaling and growth, man. Obviously we're both in growth mode. We're trying to continue to expand, do different things with our companies, hire more people, to contain, keep that growth contained and able to produce with it. That's happening. So what are some of the things, Nate, let's start with you on your end that you're doing as with your company?
Yeah, man. So this is like we're going to go in depth, give a bunch of key things that we're doing in a high level of detail as well, right? It's one thing to pull a goal or a sales number out of your ass, and then there's another thing to actually hit that number every month, right? So um, that's what we're gonna dive into. So one, there's a few areas that I'm dealing like diving into right now and spending time on weekly. One is recruiting. The other one is, how much revenue are we doing with current clients and how much market cap do they have with our, specific trade and how much could we be potentially getting from them, right? And then any new client that we are looking at who's an ideal customer of ours, what is their market share in the steel industry and how much can we get from them annually if we had, half their portfolio or their whole book of business, And then the last thing is kind of what technologies are we needing to implement and softwares needing to change as we're running more revenue through the machine to get more efficient, right? So those are like four major areas that we're focusing on. So like to dive into recruiting, I know that within the next, by June at the very, very latest, I need to have a senior project manager hired, right? That's a pretty high level position who will take myself out of all of operations, right? Where I'm not dealing with day to day operations on projects and I can only focus on sales and prospecting new clients, right? Obviously, I would have a meeting with that senior PM weekly and daily or whatever, because you never can just, you know, let things roll. But it is a major thing because, as anybody knows, project management it's, you're trying to work on a bid and you're getting a phone call. Hey, when are you guys doing this? Or hey, what's up with this? Or hey, did you order this? Right? Project management is so hard to schedule time to do. And as you're moving in more into that CEO role where you need to have blocks of time scheduled out uninterrupted, it's, you really can't be doing project management anymore because it's interruption. And if you don't reply right away, that's an issue because people need quick communication. So that's the major role I'm looking for now. And one key thing to point out, anybody who's like hired some of those office roles, say a senior project manager, estimator, whatever it is, don't be in a rush to do that. Make sure you spend a lot of time getting to know the person. This could take anywhere from 3 months, 4 months, whatever, to find the right person, you know, and make sure that you take the time, vet them, make sure that they align, go get lunch with them once a week for a month, whatever it is, because you'll know too. Let's say you're interviewing that person and you say, hey, I want to get to know you. So let's just go out to lunch every Thursday, for an hour for the next month. And then in 4 weeks, we'll talk and make a decision. If that person freaks out and says, oh, that's stupid, I'm not going to waste 4 hours, da, 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 da. I need a job right now. Whoa, probably not the right person for the job, right? So time does a wonderful thing of fixing a lot of your problems for you when it comes to those scenarios. So that's one area. I'm spending at least 1 to 2, now probably 2 hours a week on that. Recruiting higher level people. Also have a lot of ads out for welders, iron workers, fabricators, and looking like, you have to look 3 months out, a year out. Who am I going to need in this seat? And start looking or start developing someone who's currently in the office to move up to that role, right? You're not going to just be growing, trying to scale and then say, oh crap, I need another project manager. Because when you're in a rush, that's when you make stupid decisions and hire somebody out of desperation, which you should never do that. Even if you're in a rush, do not do that. Just figure out a way to make it work for the time being. Sub out work, whatever you got to do. Don't ever hire a key person in a rush. Even a laborer, don't hire anybody in a rush if you care about your culture. So that's number one. I'll let Bill hit on recruiting too, and hiring, because it's a big one. You're not going to grow unless you get somebody who's been there. I'm not looking for, sorry, Bill, I told you I was going to let you, now I'm keep talking.
No, go.
so,
This is good. Go.
so I'm not looking for somebody who knows as much as I do in operations. I'm looking for someone who knows more than I do. I'm not looking for someone who's done operations at a company that's worth 10 million. I'm looking for someone who's done, you know, a senior ops role at a company that has 50 to 100 million, because that's where we're going. So why would I get somebody who's just done it at a 5 or, at a low 8-figure or high 7-figure scale? That doesn't make sense, right? So hire two where it's going to be what you're growing into. Don't be a know-it-all. Don't hire someone who knows the same amount of info you do. That makes no sense at all. Get somebody smarter than you. Pay them a shitload of money, more money than probably you're making at the time. Take a sacrifice. I'll probably have to drop my salary for a few months when I hire this guy, but I know he'll help us keep increasing our revenue by 70+% a year. So what's that going to do, right? I'll make that money back quick.
No, I love that, man, because you're playing the long term is what you're doing too. And like with our hiring, I'm always on the lookout for people. That's just how you got to be, especially as a business owner too. If you come across somebody, whether it's a waiter or a bartender, or like I did, somebody at the gym like Mason, who we have too, and you think there's potential there, that you just know it, you see it. It's somebody that can grow with your company, become a future leader. That this is a different strategy than you were talking about. This is you know obviously hiring somebody, having to train them. You were just talking about hiring somebody with the experience. Well, let's go the opposite way. You find somebody that's good, they came from a really good company, very good results from that company. That you just have that feeling that that they're going to be a big crucial part of your business. Hire them, find a role for them, put them in a beginner role where they can learn and build their way up. That's what we did with the employee we have, and he's shot up. He's already in a superintendent role, and he was just a laborer 4 months ago, and he hasn't even been with us for a year. But I knew, I had that feeling when I met him that he was different, that he was going to be something special, that he is going to be a big part of the company, a leadership role. He's going to have a very high up role as we expand and build too. So just touching on what Nate said, there's a lot of great key points Nate made, but there's also an opposite way of doing it too, where if you find, so always be on the lookout. That's kind of what I'm getting at. I'm always on the lookout for key people. You just never know. You might run into somebody you're just like, wow, you're blown away. Offer him a job. Try and get him in somewhere, because like Nate's saying, you want to get ahead of that growth. A lot of people just hire when they're desperate and need it, and it's last minute, like Nate just went over, and you're spiraling, you're trying to find somebody you just hire to hire, and then you end up having the wrong person. They don't have they're not with the company culture, which Nate and I have touched on this show a bunch of times. You got to fit within the company's culture. So you're hiring this person, they bring down the culture, they bring down the crew. It's just not a good hire, and you were desperate, and that brings you down. You start losing money, and so on and so on. So huge facts right there for what Nate said too. On the sales end of thing, as far as growth with us, going into what we were just talking about, I'm always playing the long term. I'm always thinking ahead. I'll use real world examples. That's what I like to do. Today I had a phone call with somebody that called our office, said they wanted to build a 2,000 square foot house. We're a luxury builder. We usually don't build 2,000 square foot houses. They had a very low budget too. Most builders would have never called them back. I called her back today. Very nice lady from New Jersey. Had a long discussion with her. She was asking my opinion, on other local builders. I usually don't get into that. I just said my advice is to go with the builder that's been around the longest, that you've talked to. And she was, after a long discussion with her, kind of telling her what to look for within building a house. Look at the feature sheets, look at the contract, make sure everything's spelled out. They're probably a fixed cost builder because they're more of a track home. Just make sure all your ducks are in a row, but make sure you have the experience too. Don't go with the cheapest guy. Don't go with the new guy that's selling a house for nothing. You're probably going to get burnt. I gave her all this information. At the end of that call, she was so grateful to me. And she said to me, too, she goes, one day I'm going to be able to afford, one of your houses. I see your stuff. Your stuff is beautiful. It's amazing. One day I'm going to build a Ryman home. So playing that long term, still helping people when a lot of other builders on the luxury end would be like 2,000 square feet. I ain't calling this lady back. I'm always thinking long term. How can I help? And I told her on the phone before we hung up, I said, if you ever need anything, you have my number. Give me a call. I'm happy to help you.
Yep.
So most people wouldn't do that, man. And it's just like doing that kind of stuff is huge. Another thing that's happening now, we're painting a whole entire house. It's not even one of our houses, it's the neighbor's house. My pile guy drove pilings, he got grease on the house. Long story short, we tried getting it off. It didn't come off. A lot of it did, but we sent our painter over there, and now we're painting the whole entire house. Come to find out, once again, long-term play. That guy's one of the owners of LifeVac, the little vacuum. When you're choking, pops out the food. Very popular. Saved probably 2,000 lives throughout the country. He's one of the co-owners. Because we've gone above and beyond, and done something most builders wouldn't or most contractors wouldn't. This guy is just up in awe. He's like, I can't believe this. You guys responded so fast. You're painting my whole house. He goes, I got friends that want to move down here, and my partners want to move down here. I'm definitely having you guys build their houses. I'm going to refer you guys to them. Also, I want to build another house on a better view lot. I'm going to have you guys. So it's just playing the long term game, doing the right thing. These things are huge when it comes to scaling. A lot of people think now short term, but I'm telling you, think long term. Like Nate said, even on the hiring end, continue to think long term too. Hire the right people early, because don't scramble and hire them late, and hire the wrong people late, I should say, because it's going to screw you up. It's going to screw your business. Play long term, do the right thing, 100%. Nate, what else you got?
Yeah, I mean, when you're scaling, when you're trying to grow 50% a year, say 70% a year, whatever it is, it's very strategic. You need to be thinking, when am I going to need this guy, right? When am I going to need this guy? And what's funny is I listened to Brian's podcast that he did last week about building a 9-figure business. It launched last Friday. This is the Brian Hess show. So I'll do a little quick plug on that. Anybody watching this, check that out, the Brian Hess show. Also on the One Team Media channel. You're welcome, BH, for the plug. Yeah, I got you, bro. Anyway, so what he said was, damn, brain fart.
Brian
Hang on.
Hess, Brian Hess
Well,
show.
it'll come back to me. Oh,
Brian Hess show, 9-figure company.
yeah. I got you. Sorry, sorry, folks. Long day.
That's what I'm
So
here for.
thanks, brother. So what he said was, it's funny when you're scaling a company because you've never done it, right? So you're making moves and you're making things based on intuition. But this is also why it's so important to educate yourself, have mentors, read books about people who have done it, because that'll give you the intuition of how to make the moves, right? Because I want to clarify that, because there's some people listening. Oh, I'd never done it. How do I know what I need? Dude, come on, get a mentor, read some books. It's complicated, but it isn't that complicated. You know what I mean? You'll feel when your time is getting split so many different ways that what you're best at as an owner is getting sacrificed, right? So it's like, what do I need to replace myself? Operations, right? Because I'm good at sales. So operations, I'm not that great at, you know? So where's all the money made? It's made on both sides, but hey, the sales is what brings the money in. So that's the first spot to replace yourself. On clients and revenue, right? So I had Tara in our office. I had her make a pie chart that shows how much revenue we did with each client last year and what that percentage is. So a number, whatever, 500K, 300K, 50K, each client had their own pie piece. And it had the percentage of total revenue that they brought in for us, also their value. So then I could look at that and I could get real strategic and say, hey, last year we did 4 million. Here's this big pie chart. Okay, who did we do? All right, Staples Construction. they do close to 100 million a year. Man, we only did less than $1 million with them. They probably sub out close to 8 to 10 million in steel a year. So I'm like, okay, we need to push hard with them this year. We're already a client of theirs, or they're already a client of ours. We just need to service them better, bid on more opportunities, and take more market share, right? Why wouldn't I do that than try to go recruit a whole new client and build a relationship? So that's another area. And then I'm also looking, hey, do any of these take up more than 30% of our revenue? Right? Do I have any one client that I get more than 30% of my revenue from? Because then that becomes what they call single point failure risk, right? If you have one client that eats up, say you have 3 clients and each one's 33% of your revenue. If one client leaves, you lose 33% of your revenue. That's a huge risk, major risk. You do not want that risk. So spread that revenue out. I looked at that too in the beginning or before the year, right? In December, as I was strategically planning. Okay, so I'm looking at different people. Who can we build more relationships with to increase our revenue? How much does that client do in annual volume, right? Oh, they do 100 million, they do 20 million. Okay, on average, on the typical custom home, on the typical TI commercial, on the typical new construction commercial, whatever, you can do your own research. What's the typical percentage that is, structural steel, Section 5 work, right? Metals. Okay, and then I Google it, right? Oh, it's typically this percent, 10%, 5 to 10%. All right, so go with the low number. All right, if they do 100 million, then they sub out worst case 5 million a year in steel. So how do we get that whole 5 million? And then I'll talk to them and be blunt. I'll get on with the senior estimator or the owner and be blunt and say, hey, I looked, man, we only did a few million with you or 500,000. I know you guys are subbing out closer to like probably 6 or 8 million. We only got a fraction of that. How can we get the whole pie? How can we help you? Because ultimately, if we're servicing you and we're your go-to, your system is going to run faster, right? Luckily, they're not smart enough or they'll realize single point failure risk, A lot of them do, so you might not get the whole pie, you know what I mean? But try to service them well and get as much as you can. All right, so that's one area. And then also in the revenue side, looking at new clients, I'm real strategic, right? Is this client nice? Are they easy and fun to communicate with? Do they pay good? What type of projects do they have? Where are their projects located? What's their market share? How much are they doing? And where's that at, right? Are they doing 100 million but it's all over the state? Or are they doing 100 million and it's within 60 miles of my office? That's perfect. Let's go. You know? So really get strategic on that and that will help you scale. But be intentional. Okay? I'm not just taking a machine gun and just fucking, let's bid everything. What can we get? No, I'm like, sniper. I want this guy. Boom. Next, this guy. Boom. So be real strategic. You got anything to add on that?
Yeah, man, I love that because I mean, and a lot of you guys listening are probably like, well, what if I'm new and I'm trying to get more in front of clients and it's not an existing customer or whatever? I mean, there's strategies to do that too. On my end, as a builder, how am I getting in front of more potential customers that I can't reach through social media? I can't reach through other outlets. Okay, well, recently I went to a realtor's office. They're a team, been around Naples forever. I'm trying to break into the Naples office. Nate knows this. It's a goal for the year I will accomplish. But I went and met with two brothers. They've been established, very well known in the area, but they're well known for new construction. So I got a meeting with them, and I got a meeting through somebody I knew, and use that, have that relationship, leverage that relationship to get with these people too, because he's a friend of mine, got me in a room with these two guys and just had a discussion with them, related with them. They're brothers in the business together. I relate to that. I have a brother in the business with me, and we hit it off right off the bat because we related in so many ways too. But the discussion was, how can we help each other? And at the end of it, I kind of figured out what they were looking for just by listening to them. That's the key thing right there, too. Listen. It's not all about you. Let them ask the questions. You give them the answers in as much detail as possible, and how you differentiate from, you know, the other builders, the other competition that they're already working with. They're already working with some big builders. Why do they need me? You know, so that's what I needed to sell myself on too, but give them value back as well. So at the end of the discussion too, I knew they were trying to break into social media. I saw 2 podcast mics on their on one of their desk. Well, Nate and I do this podcast thing. I've done it for a while, so I have experience in it. So they were talking about it. They're like, yeah, we just started a podcast. We got to get you on it. I was like, better yet, I was like, if you guys ever need help with it, you ever need help with building your YouTube channel, you ever need help with establishing your social media presence, how to figure it out, stuff like that, I'm more than happy to help you for free. I'll just do, you know, I don't need anything. I don't ask anything in return. I'm happy to help you guys because I know, thank you for your time. Your time's valuable. You gave it to me today. That's how I want to return to you guys. So, you know, doing those things like that to get in front of realtors. I'm handwriting letters right now to some of the bigger realtors in the area, CPAs, doing that. Going to handwrite some letters to them just to try and buy them lunch. I'm going to say, hey, I'm happy to buy you lunch just to get your time. It's worth the expense. You're going to have to spend some money to get in front of some people too. It's part of the game, man. And, you know, getting in front of architects too. I have a big build that we're going to be doing. The most expensive lot ever sold on Marco Island. And I've been contacting new realtors for this property, or not realtors, new architects for this property, because this has to be a premier design. So a lot of architects I'm going to get in front of too, and that's going to be huge. So just trying to get in front of people, meet new people, network, market yourself, not just with social media, but just in meetings in person. Talk to these people, give them some kind of value back too. It's going to go a long way with making your presence known in certain areas. You want to be top of mind. That's the way to be top of mind as far as, you know, in a local area too. Another thing Nate and I have talked about that I'm going to be doing too. I want to possibly start a local podcast where I'm just, you know, interviewing local business owners in the community. That's something that I want to do because it gets me in front of people, helps me meet people that are local, CEOs of companies, and so on, and also drives people to that channel to be able to see their actual who they're buying from within the community. So that's something kind of on my list of the year things to do. I'm a very busy man, and so my time is very valuable, and I'm going to be spending it trying to. I'm focused on growth and expanding our company into new areas and stuff, and also reaching out to past relationships too. That's another thing. You know, my overall goal is to be one of the top luxury builders, be the top luxury builder in the state of Florida. Well, how can I get there? I had a lot of relationships in the Tampa St. Pete area. I have relationships on the other coast too. So start making it known what you're trying to do, your overall goal. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but making people aware of it when those business opportunities pop up, they're going to be like, oh, well, Bill was talking about it on his social media about how he wants to expand and be the largest builder in the state of Florida. Well, I know this business that's for sale, and let me reach out to him. That actually just happened to me. So it's not worth what the guy wants to sell it, but hey, top of mind. So, you know, in the future, I'm still top of mind to that person. He's actually a CPA, and he reached out to me about a possible sale. So, doing those things is what's going to get you expand, talking about your visions, talking about what you want to do. Nate does really good at that. Check out Nate's social media because Nate teaches a lot of the strategies that he's gone through. But people look up to him, they look at him as somebody that knows the welding business, like, you know, and Nate tells a story and so on because he's been in the business his whole life. I've been in this business my whole life too. Nate and I are still learning, but what we learn, we try and teach. What's worked for us, we try and teach. That's why we're doing this show too. And me talking about these things, Nate talking about these things, you guys out there that are listening might be like, hey, Bill, somebody I know has a business in Florida that they want to sell. It's a luxury home building company. Reach out to them. I want you to talk to them. So you just never know where it's going to go, man. I'm not going to get into, on expansion. I mean, everybody knows social media. Everybody knows Nate and I do social media. That's key. If you're not doing social media, I'm sorry. I
You're
don't
a
want to say you're an
loser.
idiot, but but you should be doing social media, man, because you're going to fall behind. Like, it's such a world of social exposure. Everybody's watching video. Everybody's seeing what you're doing. They want to see you before they meet with you. I don't know how many people that I meet with now say they saw my YouTube channel or something like that. It's a compliment to me that the work I'm putting in, same with Nate, it's going out there and people are actually viewing it and they're wanting to work with us because of what they're seeing too, because we are our true selves. We don't fake anything. We're not posting in front of Lambos and stuff like that, playing the big role. We're just who we are. So get on social media too. That's going to help with your expansion strategies. I talk about what I want to do, my future all the time. So does Nate. And over deliver on your experiences, man. We strive to do it. We do it in all different ways, as much as possible. And whether it's clean job sites, helping out neighbors, like I said, with painting the guy's house because we messed something up, taking ownership, and just doing the right thing, and you know overachieving, overdoing things, just over delivering things. That's what we do, and I know that's going to get you referrals in the future. And just over delivering on the overall experience goes a long way with us too. So, Nate, what do you got?
Yeah, for sure. Moving into another issue that we're dealing with as we're scaling and growing is having to implement new technology. And that was like something that we totally jacked
Yeah,
up that
it's
we're
hard.
still trying to fix is, we spent money on a software. We got it back in freaking July or January, and it's been 3 months. We still haven't implemented it, or 2 months, right?
I
Because we
know,
just
I know
haven't had
exactly.
time. So, we're gonna have it implemented by the end of March. But really, when you are doing that, spend time, get strategic, and do not be optimistic when you're trying to figure out a schedule or a rollout plan. Be totally not optimistic. Assume the worst is going to happen and plan for that. Like, if you think, oh, we'll have 5 hours a week to work on this, assume that you have 2 hours a week to work on it, and base your rollout schedule for that technology based on that, right? Because shit will happen and it'll come up, and then you'll just be frustrated. Because I've been pissed, like, dude, we need this, because every week an issue happens, and I'm like, this software would have avoided that. But this thing takes hundreds of hours of training to implement. It's very, very um, front end heavy on training, but once you have it implemented, it pretty much takes the whole business to the next level, right? It's called Tekla for the steel industry. Tekla EPM and graphite. Pretty much when we're estimating, we'll be modeling a job in 3D, and we'll build a 3D model of the steel building. And then when you click a button and it exports all that data from the model into a spreadsheet and tells you how much it costs and how much weight it is, how many bolts you need, inches of welding wire, pounds, everything. But it takes months and months of entering data for it to do that, right?
Hmm.
But I realized the current way that we're estimating, the current way that we're project managing works. If I'm going to stay at like 5 million, what if I'm going to grow to 100 million, which is the goal, and then bigger? Like, I need to have a solid foundation. I need to switch it up to something that is going to grow, right? Another spreadsheet that we use, like to track revenue, that thing it has way too many cells and entries because it's like a glorified Excel spreadsheet. So we're looking at that. How do we automate this spreadsheet to some extent to get rid of the human error, right? Because if you have 50 manual entries, that might not be a big deal. But as you grow and get more jobs, now you have 150. Now it's 3 times more prone to human error. So how is that going to work, right? And have all that pre-planned, because technology, you can't just say, oh crap, I need a fix. Boom. Oh crap, I need this app made. Boom. Right. And TPG can totally, talk on that because those guys are insane with the stuff they build. But they had it in their mind for years, because it took him, I don't know how long to build Property Technologies, at least a year, right? So he had that in his mind, knowing, hey, when I hit this revenue to go from this to this is going to be a critical piece. So in a year, I'm going to need that. So I need to start doing it now, right? And I need to have money, capital investment set aside to do this so that in a year we're set up. So it's really strategic. It's another thing that we're working on is the technology aspect of it. So, if you're trying to scale quickly, whew, dang, you got to spend a lot of time with strategy, man. Really thinking ahead, right? Spend those Saturdays, spend those Sundays just thinking, working on the business, not in the business, so that you can be efficient.
Yeah, it's always thinking ahead, man. And it's software is such a key thing too. We're guilty of it. We had a software for a while. It took us forever to implement it. And now we're pretty much fully, utilizing the whole software. And it's just, I mean, there's stuff that we still need to, but it's been huge, and it's been huge for the clients too. And but yeah, like Nate said, you need to always be thinking ahead, and what you can do, as the business owner to continue to grow, who you need to hire, and what's your next moves to get to where your goals are, of the year, the future, whatever. And I'm just always brainstorming. I'm reading books. I'm doing these things and trying to, like Nate said, like just trying to see what we have a mentor. It's just trying to see what they're doing, what worked for them, what didn't work for them. So, uh, yeah, man, this was good. I don't know if you have anything else, but yeah, this was good today, for sure.
No, I mean, another thing that I'm very conscious of right now is like our debt to income, right? How the balance sheet looks, and making sure that I'm not having to leverage so much debt to keep growing, right? That could put you in a jam. If you can subcontract out work, or if you can rent equipment, instead of buying it, do that for as long as you can. Don't just waste your freaking money. That's the biggest thing with contractors, right? Oh, I'm growing. I got 10 tractors. I got 100 employees. I got new trucks. It's like, no, try to grow revenue without growing as much debt, you know? So that's where I'm also spending a lot of mental energy is like, okay, we need to be saving money. We need to be paying things off and getting in a really strong financial position. Otherwise we could just get blindsided as we're
Yeah.
growing, right? So there's a lot to it, and you don't want to be optimistic. You want to play the game.
Yeah, because in construction, it's like a light switch. It can be shut off and things can go slow real quick. So you don't want to get ahead of yourself too, like Nate said with buying trucks, vehicles. I see it all the time, man. Where they buy up all these vehicles, they're brand new, they wrap them, they play this big role, and then all of a sudden things slow down, and all of a sudden those vehicles are expensive, and because no revenue's coming in, and then all of a sudden they got to trade, they got to sell them and get rid of them, or they're upside down on them, and it just everything, it's a trickle effect. So you just got to play everything in construction. Play you want to play the long game, you want to play it smart. Don't get too crazy with, like Nate said, with buying things and stuff like that. Do it as you're going with what you need, fulfill those needs. But obviously hiring too is important, like we talked about, hiring ahead, filling those roles that you need to fill too. But yeah, man, this was good today. So
Yeah, it's some
yeah,
practical stuff. Hopefully it helps everybody.
yeah, for sure. So with that being said, man, I think that's a wrap on this one. Appreciate you all. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Share the show.